So to talk about identifying test cases, and also maybe look back a little bit about identifying use cases or to identifying just functional requirements, let's do a bit of a design experience around testing. Now, you have your own projects you're working on. We'll talk about that later. Don't worry. Take a moment and just walk through this exercise here. Now, what I'm going to have you do is listen for a couple minutes and then pause it and then work on it your own, and then come back and watch the rest of this video. I'm not going to split it up into two videos because this would be really short otherwise. But the idea here is to go off to a big e-commerce site. Let's say Amazon. That should be around for a while. It's something you should all be able to get access to. What sort of things are you interested in when you're talking about the use cases you see? What are the different things that you can do as a user of Amazon? And so of all those different things, capture one of them specifically. And then try and figure out what that basic flow is. Maybe you will do that work yourself. Or, is there other interesting test cases beyond that basic flow? What are other things that could go wrong or could go differently inside of there? And so what I want you to do, the key captures out there, is within the steps you're going to capture, you want to make them very clear and explicit. So telling a user exactly what to type in. And then you want to try and remember that they're doing this later on from you, and so they need to know what your expectation was from that thing. Now, it might mean that the test is not going to perfectly work every single time. You might add something into the cart, and that thing might not be available to buy later on. That could change, but the expectation is it would be at that point in time. You'd have to control it. You'd have to set an assumption inside of there. And so your test should be repeatable then. So it shouldn't be something that only happens one time and can never ever happen again. You have to consider that as part of your usability and test design as well. That sometimes can be easier at different points. So I'm going to walk through this exercise here in a second, but I want you completely, even if you have no idea necessarily what you're doing, it's okay. Write down what you think interesting test steps are. Just take that baseline right now and give a feel for this, and then you'll see what I'm doing. We can compare with that, and then you can come back and work again, and you'll pause as much as you want to. But go ahead and pause this video for a second and go off and do that, and you'll know it's time to go again. When you hit play, but I'm going to switch the screen here in a second, and then that's where if it goes past that, then you've gone too far. All right, so I'm continuing on. Hopefully you paused by now. If not, pause real quick. But now we're continuing on. So you can see I pulled up Amazon site here. Now, I'm not logged into Amazon site right now. This is a base. I've never touched this from this browser sort of visit to Amazon. This could be a case in itself. There could be something you're going to be testing, the types of things that show up. It might be a little bit tough to see because you have this big ad space up here in the middle, and what shows up here would have to be somewhat dynamic. Like whatever the values in the most important thing to advertise package. But you can see now popular departments, different things go in here. That's less interesting. It's a tougher thing to test. This is more of a usability type thing. What I want to do is get into some real functions. So you could say, okay, well, the test case starts in with signing in. And so you put up here and you put in information for your account login. And so I should be capturing very explicitly what's going on here. So as I'm doing it, I should be able to write down, say, 1, visit Amazon.com. 2, click the sign in securely button. Okay, so then 3, so you can say 1A, I can document this any number of ways. The site takes you to a page that, actually I should do this here, shows the home page. Maybe that's all I care about at this point, shows the home page. So site takes you to a page that enters username, password, enter credentials, username, Gilo at R. All right, so in some cases you might want to have something that are secret right now, but this is the type of thing that we're going to do. This is all the steps I've done so far. Again, it takes me a minute or so to write those down, and that's going to be the reality of it. You're going to have to do that, but let's see if this works. I don't want to remember that now. Oh, so right there was a problem. So I typed it in. Oh, yeah. That's because I typed in the wrong thing. So I did a problem. But then it could be expected the site will not load as this is invalid. That could be the test case you want to do. This could be a check, fail one check. If it works, then you know your security is turned off. So then I could do this all over again. So repeat it with different values. So let's say, so I did it wrong. Nope, that's not my password either. You can see I don't normally log in here. There's my password there. So then I've figured it out and I've logged in. And so again, what I did here was I entered the credentials, was I figured out what it was, and then that's not my password either. But I put in the crest backwards. Now the home page reloads with, should be a welcome there with hello Tony in the address bar. Okay, so very explicitly, this is the thing I'm identifying because of either the requirement said so or some design piece said so. This is the piece I'm identifying that I successfully logged in. So again, we can see each step along the way, I'm clearly putting in expected values as well as the input values that got me there. I can continue on, and let's say I want to go to accounts and lists and my wish list there. And so all the different things that show up on my wish list are already there. And this would be saying, right here, I say, click on the menu bar to open the wish list. The items should appear on the screen. So I think what did I have? Pet door. Scott Lynch novel. If you haven't read Scott Lynch, excellent author right there. And so on and so forth. Everything that should show up inside of there. So this should be very clear. Now, this might need some data to be designed, to be set up, to be able to pre-set up this account each time. Well, now I've hit the requirement for that. When I go off and implement this test case, I either have to have a database flash or a script that does this ahead of time, or maybe an automated test case that does this. But I can go through and do that item. So now I could test adding things to it, or whatever the next step is. You go from here. I could do this all as one big sequence, or I could do each of these as small little tests. Okay, I could log in, test by itself. I could test the wish list. I get an extra H there. Wish list by itself. I can test adding things to the wish list by itself, or I can do some sort of flow that tests many of these things. A lot of it depends on just how you want to design it. The more granular the tests you have, the quicker it is to rerun parts of it. But it might be a lot of setup for each one of the little granular pieces. So it might be easier to do a big long test. So I open up the wish list, I add items to it, I remove items from it, I do all this sort of stuff all together. I can add it, I can delete it. Sometimes you'll have a test that intentionally is built to be self-repairing. I go in, I buy something, I pay for the thing, I cancel the order, and then it's gone. So I get my money back, I get refunded. And so that basically brings me back to the null state of not having made any transaction at all. But this is the idea of around test scenario generation. There's not a right answer. There's maybe some heuristics or preferences out there of doing big things versus small things. But overall, you want to just basically come up to the three key things of what are the user steps, what is the data that they're going to present to the system, and what is the expected response from those steps and data combination. And that's what's most important to capture as you go about your test scenarios. So think about that. This formatting is only one option for formatting. You could do many different ways of doing this. So this same thing could be done as a table, for instance. Let me just show you. I could say table. I'll do a 3-column table, and so you can say step 1, 2, 3. I'll make that one real small. And action response. So you could do something like this. Sometimes I've actually seen it before where I can set a insert column to the right, a pass-fail checklist right there. You could put that sometimes all the way off to the right. So the action would be visit Amazon.com. I gotta take that out real quick. And then the response is it shows the home page. And so I put this down here. And then click the sign in securely button. That goes here. So you can see the different formatting choices. This works really well when you have very clear back and forths. It's a nice use of space horizontally. You can see I'm using the whole page. Back and forth. It gives me the table that I can go through, pass fail. I've actually seen this done in an Excel document before as well. That can work well because you can sort on things. You can get statistics and such. Where it might be a little bit tough is if I have a really long piece here like this, enter credentials, becomes a big piece here. Oops, sorry, let me just do a little formatting here. We'll do this a bullet point list there. Like this, and then I have something very small over here. Then all of a sudden this becomes a not very good use of space. So I can shrink that a little bit, and then it's a little bit better. But again, we have a lot of blank space. Again, it's a choice of formatting. Either way can work. It's basically how you want to be functional later on with it. What do you need to add? What do you need to look at? One case is a bit more narrative and a little bit easier to show. The other case is a bit more structured and easy to see checkboxes and whatnot. And then, like I said, translates into other tools such as Excel to be able to capture information. So this is an example of the types of things you're going to be creating. What I would like to see is a pretty broad picture of the types of tests that's going on. So I'd like to see something of along the lines of, sorry, let me come up here, and you have test cases. So you could have a very simple table up front. This gets into the idea of traceability. So I will insert the table here, ID, description, trace, something along those lines. So it's 1, 2, 3. Description here could be manage wish list. And this could be make purchase, rate item, things like this. Reorder. These are all different. These are different use cases that could be out there. So the trace would be to wish list use case. So it could be done at a high level like this, where the managed wish case does all the wish list things. Or we could say AIA, let's put 2.1 just to say, make purchase, bad credit card purchase, because that's a specific scenario. In Amazon, you'll be able to buy it, but if your credit card fails, it'll send you an email. So it could be like you have sub tests that are based off of the main test. It could be grouped up smaller as well. Again, this is a high level for you to think about the types of tests you would have based off of your requirements and your use cases. And then down here is a scenario which should happen for 1 or 2 of them, depending on how complex they are. If they're simple, should do a couple of them. If it's very complicated, then one of them is probably good enough to show that you know how to do this. So those are the 2 things we're looking at as we go into this week. So good luck. Ask any questions if you got them. Bring them to chat. That's where we can talk about working on this stuff. But otherwise, this is the foundations of what we're looking at for testing in the context of our requirements.